action indeed, Nelta. Good morning, guys, and happy Good Friday, happy Easter. Welcome to the Business Morning Studio. Obviously, as Nelta has said, let's do some business action, even though it's Easter. We spend money, don't we? So it's all about business at the end of the day. Starting from the global space, oil prices rose by more than $1 a barrel on Thursday after falling for 2 consecutive sessions on the prospect of supplies, given the OPEC Plus Producer Alliance is widely expected to stay course on its current production cuts. We look at the number for this morning, and we see that Brent is up, really up there. More than 1.5%, 1.61%, and is going for $87.48. It's a new contract. We know these things are priced in contracts, so it's not today's price, it's the price for May contract. That's what we're looking at. WTI also gained even more than Brent, 2.24% at $83.17 a barrel. Now let's look at the factors driving this. Both benchmarks are more than 2% up on the weekend. We're on track to finish higher for a third consecutive month. In the prior session, we saw oil prices that come under pressure from last week's unexpected rise in the United States. Crude oil and gasoline inventories, driven by an increase in crude imports and sluggish gasoline demand from that area. We're still staying in the global space now, but no way. That's no grain trading for this morning. But obviously, we have our Naira for the close of yesterday. And it's good to see the Naira still gaining, still doing that positive trend. It's been doing that over a week, going to about 2 weeks now. It's been consecutive. That's very heartwarming. So we see for yesterday, the close of trade on the 29th. A close of trade on the 28th, not 29th. That's an error. Beg your pardon right there. So we see that the current price, what it closed with yesterday, was 1,309 naira 39 kobo. It's opened at 1,300 for that. That's 0.69. And then for yesterday, also talking about the NAFEX, it closed at 1,303 naira 33 kobo. So we see a continuous gain, but it's not time to relax yet. It's not time to relax at all, because we still have a long way to go. We need to do under 1,000. I'll say 700, even though we can do better than that. I know that the prospect from international bodies is 900 for $1, but I mean, it will still do us a better good if we can do better than that. And then the big news that came on yesterday, late yesterday, from the central bank. I wonder why the central bank likes sending its statement late in the day. But the Central Bank of Nigeria has unveiled the new minimum capital requirement. Remember that the central bank governor had hinted on this. That bankers' night, the very first time we heard his voice and knew a bit of direction that he was coming on board with. He did hint on that. And so now we see it's official. They're pegging the minimum capital base for commercial banks with international authorization at 500 billion. This follows a directive from the nation's financial regulator urging Nigerian banks to expedite action on the recapitalization of their capital base in order to strengthen the financial sector. This statement was signed by the Acting Director of Corporate Communications Department of the bank, Mrs. Hakama Sidi, and she confirmed this development and said that the new capital base for commercial banks with national authorization is 200 billion. The one for international is 500 billion. And for those with regional authorization, it's 50 billion. And of course, there are those for commercial merchant banks and non-interest banks. So we will start seeing action. They have 24 months to meet up with this. And trust here on Channels Television, we're going to follow up on this conversation and see how it goes. So I remember the last one was about 19 years ago. And, we saw what happened from the banks. Number of banks in Nigeria was trimmed from 89 to about 25. We have 25 now. I wonder what number we'll have in 24 months. But it's obviously for the better of the economy. Stronger banks can give stronger funding to the real sector and to boost production in the country. Well, talking about boosting production, it's everyone's business to calm inflation and boost production. The Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce is also concerned about this. So they had a meeting discussing how to tame inflation and deal with the scarcity of foreign exchange or foreign currency in Nigeria. A surging inflation is everyone's business, although the Central Bank of Nigeria leads in finding a solution. The March 2024 forum of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce is joining in the conversation with a focus of taming inflation and high exchange rate with the built environment.
A lot of the inflation that's going on is actually price gouging. People can take advantage. Our economy is not really structured. We're not even getting the right data that we should get. And so someone is selling food, and food is a major item on the inflation, on the food basket, on the basket indeed of goods that are surveyed by NBS Bureau for Statistics every month. Food is a major item on it, and therefore there'll be a skew, because indeed it's a case of take it or leave it. People must eat. And indeed, you'll probably also find out that the farmers are not the ones making the money. Rather, it's the middlemen.
A bit higher up.
For economist and chairman of Phillips Consulting, Mr. Felicia Phillips, the whole structure of the country needs attention.
We need to build great institutions. And to do that, we really do need to see how we can get our leaders to become responsible. To get our leaders to be responsible, we have to establish a rule of law in this country. We have to establish an environment in which the law takes control and nobody is above the law and everybody are forced to behave in a proper way.
Members of the built environment have found roles to play in this needed change.
The issues of how the built environment can help us to bring down inflation, to bring down high interest rates, to help tame some of the foreign exchange challenges. We are very particular about the role that maintenance can play in helping our economy out of the current doldrums.
The Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce says its belief is that the private sector can also make significant input in dealing with Nigeria's current economic headwinds.
So, questions and answers, please.
Well, the current economic headwinds does not stop the celebration of Easter or any other festivities. And so let's find out how we're doing and what's happening to demand and supply at a time like this, compared to before this period when we do not have inflation surging past 31%. We have to discuss that with us Dr. Jide Adedeji. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Easy Sources Nigeria Limited. Good morning, Dr. Adedeji.
Good morning.
So happy Good Friday.
Same to you.
Yeah.
And thank you for inviting us.
Good to have you. So it's Good Friday. Share with us your experience. You've been in business for a bit. In the food chain sector or industry in Nigeria. We see inflation surging past how many decades high at this time. We're fighting a supply of
Raw materials
because most of them are imported. FX is scarce. We are also fighting, even on the domestic front, insecurity that has stopped a lot of farmers from going back to the farm. Compare maybe last 5 years or so when it comes to times like this. What has been the difference?
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Yes, Easy Sources is a manufacturer of sauces. And our basic ingredients are raw materials are the tomatoes, peppers, and onions. So we are intimately familiar with what is going on in the market regards to these raw materials. So mostly, yes, the food security situation we find ourselves in Nigeria actually leads to all of these problems in terms of farmers not being able to produce and being removed from their farms. So that creates the problem in terms of production and their own competitiveness and productivity. So when it comes to this kind of period, one of the things that is affecting our products cost right now is the Ramadan. You find that at this time in the year, a lot of the normal value chain transfer of products is not happening because people don't want to take off from the north and bring goods and commodities to the south. So at this period, it tends to give a small bump in the cost of raw materials. However, in terms of how we got here in the first place, as you were speaking to, is the food security issues we are finding. We find that there's quite a bit of food insecurity in Nigeria. About over 200 million people are food insecure, and these are causing some of what we are seeing. But we got there by the conflicts that we see in the Northeast, the Southwest banditry and all these things, and then...
But was it this much, comparing like past years? Maybe not last year, maybe like 2 years ago, 5 years ago. How was it comparing that period and now?
Obviously, there is inflation that has affected everything, and most of our raw materials have actually increased based on some of the things that we have seen happening in the economy. The cost of fuel and the cost of transportation, and that has affected the cost of raw materials as well. So all of these bring into focus that increased cost. And for manufacturers, all these raw materials are what we find. We find that even we make sauces and sometimes meals ready to eat. Those meals ready to eat use rice and some of these raw materials. We find that the 50-kilogram bag of rice we were buying about 33,000 naira before is somewhere in the area of 70, 80,000 naira now. So that impacts the cost of these goods that we bring out into the market. So yes, there has been over the past few years increase, which is causing some of these things we are finding, especially in the cost of goods, cost of food, as well as in the availability as well. I'm also aware, though, that the government is engaging or planning, getting ready to be engaged in some massive palliative activities that the Bank of Industry is working on in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. So I'm hoping that we are going to see alleviation of some of these problems in a very short time.
Yeah, but you know, in spite of this, it's actually sad that we still have, I think, about 50% post-harvest losses. So for a company like yours that deal with raw materials like tomatoes that come from the north, yes. If you go to the north, you see a whole lot of tomatoes, peppers, and all of that. You see them wasted. Meanwhile, there's a huge need of it here. It doesn't look like we're intentionally trying to solve the problem of post-harvest losses.
In the agribusiness space, one thing is very clear. The investment that we're doing as a nation in that space is absolutely not enough. Because some of these problems that we talk about is really based and due to the fact that there's not enough funding and investment in the agribusiness space in Nigeria. In fact, I was reading just as I came in that banks are making, after taxes, 6 billion profit, and we're finding it difficult to adequately fund and invest in the agribusiness area, which is very critical for the survival of our country and nation. We all know that, food is critical, and this food and food security is important even for the sovereignty of our nation, because you find that we're doing a lot of importation of goods, and this is not something that is sustainable. So we must do everything to begin to increase productivity and competitiveness in agribusiness space in Nigeria.
Yeah, maybe the private sector. For instance, is your factory close to your source of raw materials? Do you have a factory in the north where a lot of your raw material comes from?
Our source of raw material is actually all over the country. Because of the nature of these raw materials, there's some amount of variability in their availability. And seasonality. So in season, depending on what the season is, we buy from different locations based on where it is. Sometimes it's closer when we buy from the southwest. Sometimes we have to go a little bit to the north. But all of it's about all the transportation.
I guess that also speaks to the issue of storage and preservation infrastructure in the country.
Yes.
Because it shouldn't be seasonal. We should be able to have a storage or preservation facility that keeps, this product all through the year.
Especially, we are talking about raw materials that are 6 months in terms of from plantation to harvest, 6 months, 9 months. So there's no reason we cannot have 2-3 cycles in a season or in a year. But because we have not invested enough at the level of irrigation, so that we can have all year-round production of all of these products, and then the use of different inputs, which we should do everything to bring to the market, to impact the productivity. So,
So obviously it's an issue of capital for infrastructure, for preservation, for storage. What are investment opportunities available for the private sector now, to solve this problem?
Yes, investment opportunities. You see, along the entire value chain, there are opportunities in terms of productivity. But again, as you have said, it boils down to the availability of funds to do these things. In fact, my suggestion would be that we need quite significant concessionary investment and funding in this space that is going to allow us and give us the opportunity to get out of this place or position where we are, where we have to start relying on palliatives and things like that. Because what we need is going to be some strategic input such that we are planning for the future and we are making sure that all of the relative advantages that we are capitalizing and utilizing them appropriately for development and growth and productivity of all of these materials.
Yeah, no, obviously this will come from both the private and the public sector. We cannot limit to just one. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Jide Adedeji, the Chief Executive Officer of Easy Sources.
Thank you so much.
We wish you happy Easter.
Same to you.
And thank you for spending a part of it with us.
Thank you. It's nice to see you again.
Same here.
Bye-bye.
Yes. All right, well, we're still looking at the celebration of Easter. Now, let's look at tourism and travels, how much that has been affected, by what's going on. We have joining us virtually from Nairobi, Kenya, where I think he's spending some of our FX for holiday. Mr. Ikechukwu is the organizer of Akwaba African Travel Market and promoter of 7 Wonders of Nigeria concept. So that's Niger 7 Wonders. That's what is being called. Mr. Oko, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Happy Easter to you.
Good morning, Aini. It's good to connect with you here.
Yeah, so I said you've taken part of our FX to Kenya to spend your Easter instead of going to where is that in Calabar, or you go to Bauchi, Jankari, Obudu, and then go to Jankari. You've taken our FX to Kenya to spend Easter.
Oh no, I actually came back from Calabar on Monday. Then I took off to Kenya on Tuesday. I came for a cargo conference which ended yesterday. So now I'm visiting with friends, a condolence visit. And what's wrong in doing Easter in Kenya? I've never spent Easter in Kenya before. It's an African country. I promote Africa as a destination. So it's just another brotherly country.
So that's your defense, Mr. Oko. But do tell us, as we celebrate Easter now, you've been, I remember when Obudu and the Calabar Festival, they were really popular. You were in front of pushing all of that. Now, I don't know what's going on with Calabar Carnival. It doesn't seem to be as popular as it used to be. But tell us about the demand and perception of Nigerians when it comes to spending holidays like this in locations within, especially after the COVID. COVID brought a break to all of that. Tell us about the recovery and the demand for it at this time.
During COVID was when we promoted the 7 Wonders of Nigeria, and we used it to develop domestic tourism. And I can tell you on very strong authority that domestic tourism started thriving post-COVID. Now, people spent a lot of their Christmas money in Nigeria. If you know what happened in Lagos, before it was Dirty December with all those musical events. Last December, the musical events weren't large in number, but quite a lot of Nigerians spent their money in Nigeria. Uyo was full. Calabar Carnival came back. Lagos was massive. There was no part of Nigeria that did not feel that experience. Nigerians spent their money in Nigeria. All my hotel GMs, all the hotel GMs that are friends of mine, they told me they had a very good Christmas. There is a new consciousness among Nigerians now to discover a little bit more of Nigeria. We say Nigeria is unsafe, but there are places that are safe. There is a hiking epidemic breaking out in Plateau. Even as I'm talking now, Ekiti is hosting a huge hiking. The governor hiking expedition. The governor joined in. So quite a lot of people, including my team, will be there from tomorrow till Monday. a whole lot of scenarios I imagined. The beach resorts in Lagos are very popular. Ondo State is coming to play. There are like 6 or 7 states that are taking advantage of this new feeling. Osun, Oyo, Ekiti, Akwa Ibom, Enugu State, Edo, Cross River. These are states that are taking advantage of the new desire for people to travel within Nigeria. And that's what we want to grow. We've spent a lot of our money going to Dubai, going everywhere in the world. But now, because of the forex situation, because of the visa situation, we're encouraging Nigerians to travel within Nigeria, and quite a lot of people are doing that. I know that Easter Monday is usually the most popular domestic tourism event in Nigeria. There is no money. I've listened to your analysts talk about the food and the rest of them. But on Monday, every beach in Lagos will be full. People are going to get to streets to see masquerades in Enugu. People are going to, we are Nigerians. Hunger can't beat us. Nothing can beat us. Yes, we don't have money, but we will still have fun. So I expect that there'll be a lot of people on the street. We won't fly around like before. Airfares are prohibitive. I went to Calabar last week. I went to my village for a burial, and I know how much I spent in the last 10 days flying around Nigeria, even having to fly to Kenya. Unlike me, this is the second international trip I've made this year. Usually by now, I've traveled to like 10 different countries, but this is my second international travel this year. So that means quite a lot has happened to the economy. It will curtail some of those things we normally will live up to. But there's only one Easter in a year, and Easter is a long holiday. Nigerians will take advantage of that, visit with friends and family, and prepare for the new term. I know it's tough, but I don't see anything less. Nigerians will come out. We will not travel to our villages. We will not travel to far places, but we are going to enjoy ourselves this weekend.
Yeah, Mr. Oko, it sounds like you want the FX scarcity and the hike in airline flight tickets. You want those things to continue because it seems to be doing us a whole lot of good, especially when you look at it from the perspective of tourism and travels.
Yeah, a little bit of that, but you have to balance it off. Quite a lot of people are employed as tour operators and travel agents who sell foreign destinations. Quite a lot of airlines fly to Nigeria. If you cut off the foreign airlines, you've cut off our economy. But at the same time, we are 200 million people. Only 2 million travel abroad. What of the remaining 198 million people? What do they do? Let them travel within Nigeria. If you cannot afford to fly to Europe, to America, to the Middle East, or any elsewhere, why don't you spend your time visiting places in Nigeria? And if you ask me, there are lots of beautiful places. I've been around the world many times, and I can tell you, there are places in Nigeria you can't get anywhere else in the world. There are experiences. And the Gen Zs are more interested in experiences. And there are experiences in Nigeria you can't replicate elsewhere. So I'm not encouraging people to stop traveling abroad. No, the economy needs these international engagements. If you're unwell, you have to travel. If you have a conference, you have to go. Obligatory travels, yes. But if it comes to leisure, where you need to make a choice, I recommend you visit somewhere in Nigeria you've never been to.
Thank you for that recommendation, Mr. Oko. But, when you watch movies of other countries, India, even, the Asian countries, you see them intentionally infusing their culture, cuisine, clothes, and all of that. Are we in the midst of all of this selling our culture, which is a very interesting part of tourism, by the way?
Intentional on the part of government, no. But individually, we have, in the last 7 years, made Nigeria a global brand. I was part of the group that started the jollof rice thing in 2016. Today, jollof rice is part of our national brand. Anybody coming to West Africa wants to eat jollof rice. I'm here in Kenya. I'm at the Lavington Mall. When we leave the Art Cafe here, my friends are taking me to go and eat West African yellow rice. So our music is dominant. People will want to know from where these things come from. But I can see now there is a new consciousness with the new ministers coming on, wanting to take advantage of this soft power to reposition Nigeria as a destination. Our culture is strong. Our culture is unique. I've dressed today. If I can show you a little bit of an Adire Agbada, and everybody in the mall is looking at me with my hat and my dress cut, my scarf. So we are Nigerians. We have extremely exciting culture, but the intentionality is where we have failed. There has been no plan to be able to take advantage of this uniqueness. What our musicians have done for us is awesome. Our movie people have done for us is amazing. Even our skit makers. See, when you go out of Nigeria, you know how powerful our culture is. And I think the intentionality that you pointed at is where we need to begin to play. People that have the skills are not in government. People that are in government need to connect with people with these skills to be able to give us the desired results.
So I guess the intentionality will have to come from the private sector if we're not getting it from the government.
Like me, I pushed the jollof rice brand and it took off, and that's private sector. The musicians have pushed it, the Afrobeat is from the private sector. But you know, to organize this into one template and it becomes something that other people can run with, you need to be able to have the national government come, like the Bible says, get the vision, write it down so that those that say can run with it. So we need to be able to articulate this so that I'm not working in a silo. The musicians are not working in silos. We have to be able to have a national brand that speaks to everything Nigerian. Who is a Nigerian? What does this stand for? Now we are loud. We are seen as exciting. Our language, our pidgin language, everybody wants to imitate. Our food is exciting. But there has to be an architecture and a template that every Nigerian will understand, and foreigners will understand that this is what is essentially Nigerian. That cannot be done by private sector alone. Someone has to sit behind and put all this together and bring all of us who are champions of our different environments to work together.
All right, Mr. Nkechuko, thank you so much for sharing your Easter with us. We wish you all the best in, as you go out for your yellow rice or your jollof rice, whatever they call it over there. We wish you all the best and wish you happy Easter. Mr. Nkechuko is the organizer of Akwaba African Travel Market and the promoter of 7 Wonders of Nigeria. That's Niger 7 Wonders. Thank you and enjoy yourself.
Thank you, Ini. See you when I come back.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, so that's it. A bit of cherry news to know that in the midst of what seems like black or dark, no FX, high inflation, Nigerians have channeled their energy back inwards and do more of domestic travels. That's encouraging. We hope to see more of that. And just before we hand over back to the Sunrise Daily Studio, let's look at market numbers for yesterday. Of course, the markets are closed today. Everybody's on holiday, not just in Nigeria, but there was trading yesterday. So we see that the All-Share Index sustained that positive sentiment, 0.27% at 104,562. Equity edging closer there, 59.12 trillion naira. The market gained 157 billion naira. You can see those who drove this, looking at the counters at the close of trade yesterday. So my producer has refused to give me that. So I guess we just have to head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio. Nelta, Malpe, and Ayo Makinde. I hope we're going out after this, and even if it's a virtual outing, to enjoy the Easter.